Iwe for giving us yet another opportunity to continue. Yesterday we were talking about the Christian professional and his ethics. Today we just want to pick one area and talk about business, and especially becoming a Christian entrepreneur. In between, I'll try to allow people to speak with one another, and at the end we'll have question time. But all of it, the whole idea is some of you who are interested in business, that is a very important area of witness in the marketplace. But let's start with, although we are talking about entrepreneurship, let's start by stating that not all are meant to be entrepreneurs. There's a general thing like being employed is junior to starting your own business. But you'll soon discover that there's a certain gifting that goes with the people that can run their own business. And when people who don't have that particular gifting, which I'll be looking at in a minute, they actually mess themselves up. You have met many young people where the husband says he's an entrepreneur. And when I'm doing marital counseling, the wife says that's what he calls himself. But he never buys anything for the child. He never does. We do not see his money at all. But he has a business card reading he's an entrepreneur, big in titles. But according to the wife, not a single shilling comes to the home. What is worse, one of them told me, is that because they have a joint account, he actually takes the money which the wife has earned in her job as an employee and uses it to pay the salaries of his employees. In the process, even the little money that would have been available for paying for the child's milk is actually not available. Totally unchristian behavior. And it's all to do with an overemphasis on entrepreneurship. You need to seek the mind of God before going into entrepreneurship. You need to understand that if we all became entrepreneurs, all our businesses would be kiosks. It's called only in a kiosk. Do you have one? The owner is the employee. The moment he starts expanding, he must get employees. If nobody wants to be employed, that's the end of the business the way we know it. So some of us, Christians, must agree to be employees because business needs employees. Let me repeat. If all of us became entrepreneurs, we can only run kiosks. If all of us are employers, we have nobody to employ. So the only business, I repeat, that can be run by one or two people is a kiosk. So let's come out clear. God has called some of us to be entrepreneurs, but they are in the minority. He has called others to be employees and support the entrepreneurs to run their business well. Because some of the entrepreneurs do not have the skills to expand their business. But if they employ somebody with a gifting, that business will do very well. Any big business we're talking about that will uplift any country up cannot be done by less than 10 people. So you must be one employee, the entrepreneur is one employee, the other 9 are supporting him. So it means for every one entrepreneur, there must be 10 that agree to be employees. So we need to be very careful about the idea that all of us must become employers, because that will happen. If that happens, there will be trouble in our industry and in our country. And you know, some of us have very high potential to manage very huge businesses. But if we are to start a small business, we will be looking at a very small business. Whereas God has given us the ability to run a multinational company. So if you don't have the capital to grow it into a multinational company, and God has given you the gifts to run a big company, maybe being employed will make you more fulfilled and will serve God better than if you began your small business. But let's be clear. All of us need employees. Any country that develops must have more employees than entrepreneurs. America is regarded as one of the best producers of entrepreneurs. But let's be clear, even in America, the majority of the people there are actually employees. So it is not possible for all of us to become entrepreneurs. I'm trying to emphasize that. I don't know whether the other countries are like Kenya, but there's a big move in Kenya that university graduates don't want to be employed. If you have some savings, invest your savings for another to produce a return for you. If you're an employee and an employee somewhere, you still can grow your capital, but run at your level. If you are a manager of a big organization, run there. Your capacity may be required, and it's required at a higher level than your small thing. Nowhere on earth are all citizens self-employed. If, for example, you are the type of a person with global capacity, you should be working for a multinational. And the multinational comes from a country with proper capitalization to fund an organization that requires your capacity of management. Because you don't want to be employed, you live where God has gifted you, and you start running a fish pond. It doesn't look right. But it is the level of intricacies we are talking about. The bigger the organization, the greater the intricacies you have to manage. If you have a small thing, the intricacies are less. So it depends on what the giftings of God are that can help you to utilize your giftings so that you are not underemployed. Your business may not give you full satisfaction sometimes. And if that is true of you, you are earning a salary, you are even earning a bigger salary from your business, from that small pod which you run, then you can get as an employee of you can get as an employee of a multinational. But in terms of your capacity, you are being underutilized and frustrated. I hope I'm clear that as an entrepreneur, you might actually be earning more money. But remember, Christians are not driven by money. They are driven by service and ministry. So, if you are getting a lot of money from something that is not utilizing your gifts, you still have no satisfaction. God created us different. Entrepreneurship is not something you can just be taught in a school, although there is a degree in entrepreneurship. But many of them don't necessarily do it. And I know that because I was a manager with another company. And at one time I was in charge of retail. And so the petrol station dealers used to deal with me. And I used to advise them how they can run their retail sites better. The truth is, those of us who are managers in Shell, when we finally retired and started running petrol stations, they collapsed. Because our level is very high up. And here you need to bring yourself to a lower level. You can be taught anything, but there's something in your giftings that makes you successful as an entrepreneur. In a minute, I'll be looking at a few characteristics of an entrepreneur. But you need to understand some of those characteristics are God-given. They are inborn. There is something in you that causes you to want to be creative and take risks. If you don't have that, you can't be an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurs are called so because they are creative and have the ability to take risks. So if the family is pushing you to become an entrepreneur, they can even produce the capital and you go into it. But your aversion to risk-taking will bring your business down. A big business comes, but they're after credit. You look at them and say, this can run away with my money. You don't give them work, they go to the neighboring business. Your business remains small because you are not willing to take risk. Or you don't have the gift of assessing risk. So you can tell, this one I can give credit, this one I can't. It's a gift within you. In 3 months' time, if you start a business, you come to ask for more money. Somehow you are unable to manage the initial 2 million that your father gave you. So you need to find a way that you have a gift for knowing where to take risks, how to manage it. Somebody else who never went to beyond Form 4, just a high school dropout, even if you give him as much as 40 million shillings, he can do something with it and bring a profit, because he is the risk taker. Remember, I'm telling you two things. He is creative and a risk taker. Creative means he can easily tell where the needs are, what the customer need, and then creatively meet the needs of the customers and expand in the process, and he can handle a big business. It is not a matter of extra education. It is simply the fact that there is something in you that predisposes you to creatively bring up something that meets people's needs, and they are willing to pay for it. Because since you are creatively able to tell where the need is, when you finally give the service or the product, people run for it, because you created exactly to meet the needs they have, and you'll see your business grow. So if God has given some the ability to be creative, to be daring, to be risk takers, then those people need to become entrepreneurs, because society needs entrepreneurs. There are many people who are not realizing the services they could, because we are lacking people willing to take risk, willing to recognize the needs of society and the way to meet those needs. So God has given us people who have that creativity, and they are going to make life in society far much better. So society needs entrepreneurs. Somebody should channel his creativity into proper organization that can serve mankind. Being a good steward of this creativity may mean choosing not to be employed, so that you meet nobody else, and the people who employ you are not thinking of that thing. They are not creative as you. Think of where the need is and go for it instead of being employed. Entrepreneurs are not necessarily always the best managers. So they need managers, I want to remind you. But there are some entrepreneurs who are gifted in management also. They are both good entrepreneurs, but they are good in management. But many gifted managers are not necessarily entrepreneurs. They enjoy managing other people's resources. They are paid very highly for doing it. But if you leave them on their own, they are not likely to take the appropriate risks and the appropriate decisions for that business to last. So, I have told you we need both. We need entrepreneurs and we need employees. And each of them has an advantage to society. Let's, for example, look at an advantage of being an employee rather than an entrepreneur. If you're a manager of somebody else's resources, please understand what will happen is that you will earn an income. Call it a salary, call it a return for whatever you're investing in. Example of a manager will be paid salary even when the business is doing badly and the owner is getting into debt. Do you understand that difference? When you're an entrepreneur and your business is not making money, you go home with absolutely no money. But in the meanwhile, unless you want to be taken to court, your employees will go with full salaries. So the initial aspect of a business means you will see your employees will be driving better cars than you. Your employees will be living in better houses because you are paying debts. And it's important to understand that. So as an employee, you are not taking risks. As the owner of the business is taking risk. So for you have to be paid. So you can see the advantage of being an employee rather than for example, initially the entrepreneur pay you 300,000 per month. Yet he cannot get himself even that 1,000 per month. He is having to borrow to pay your salary. That's entrepreneurship initial challenge. That he is paying you 300,000 because he is after somebody of your qualifications, but he himself, the business is only making that 1,000. That's all he can pay himself. So he has to take a loan. Many successful employees are richer than some small entrepreneurs, since the savings, when you are given 300,000, you don't finish all of it. You save it and invest it with entrepreneurs who can give you a return as you continue to manage business for this particular employer. So employees are not risk takers. I think I'm clear on that. Entrepreneur is willing to pay a higher salary to others than himself, because for himself he is a risk taker. He knows the others cannot take risk. So that's one of the things you have to think about clearly before you begin a business. If you are the type who wants your salary regularly, then you can't be an entrepreneur. It has ups and downs. The initial years of entrepreneurship means years of poverty and trouble. But over time, if that business improves, you have no idea where the entrepreneur income will ever reach. So, for example, if you are earning 300,000, when the business does better, you earn $500,000 Kenya shillings. But in the meanwhile, the owner who was only earning that 1,000 initially, as the business keeps doing better until he can fully pay employees and he remains with more money, he will soon pay himself the same money he is paying the CEO, the $500,000. Then after some time, he'll be earning 20 million shillings. But the guy who is an employee is only earning 800, which is a big increase of his salary. And that's when people start becoming uncomfortable. I am the one who makes this money. How can he be going home with 20 million and he is paying me only for $500,000? Because he is a risk taker. It's not a salary, it's a return for risk taking. So if you really want your income to grow to levels of no limit, become an entrepreneur, not an employee. You know, if you are risk averse, I'm saying simply be an employee. You have some security of a certain level of income. It will come regularly, but it will not grow to the same levels as people who own business. You can't tell somebody, come work for me and I'll give you no salary. No, you're not. You can't take that risk. It is you as an entrepreneur that must take the risk. So initially, you plan to pay an employee 300,000 shillings, but your business is making no money yet. You're still on loan. You still have to pay him 300,000 shillings by continuing to borrow. Yet you will go home with nothing. In fact, your debt increases, but as the employee gets his salary, and he's actually living very well. But let's be clear, unless the business fails, entrepreneurs end up earning much, much more money than employees. If that business succeeds within 2-3 years, they will have increased employee salary to maybe $1 million shillings. And sometimes employees start complaining. It is unfair. The guy is not doing most of the work. I am the CEO and working. How can he earn much more than me? How? You are forgetting when you were earning 300,000, he was earning almost nothing. The business could have even collapsed, and it is him who would have lost all his savings and investment. And maybe the bank would have come to sell him, to sell his property and he paid debts. That's the risk he took. And if the business collapses, you just part ways and look for another job somewhere else. So you need to be aware of that. So what are we saying? That entrepreneurship is an act of being an entrepreneur, which can be defined as one who takes innovations, then adds finance, and then adds business acumen in an effort to transform their innovations into some economic good. That's who an entrepreneur is. He is an owner. It could also be the manager of his own business, who makes money through risk and initiative. The term was originally a loan word from French and was first defined by the Irish-French economist Richard Cantillon. Entrepreneur in English is a term applied to a person who is willing to help launch a new venture or enterprise and accept full responsibility for the outcome, whether good or bad. Jean-Baptiste says, and he's a French economist, believed to have coined the word entrepreneur in the 19th century. And he defined entrepreneur as one who, number one, undertakes an enterprise. We can't call you can be a risk taker, but if your risk is not providing a service or a good that others can pay for, we may have to look for another word. Number two, you can be regarded as a contractor. You are doing something in order to provide something for the person in need, and you are acting as an intermediary between capital and labor. You are the one to look for the employees. You come with the idea, you look for employees, and you look for capital, then work on it until it can meet the needs of the customers. By the time they reach their retirement years, half of all working men in the US, and I quote, probably have period of self-employment of 1 or more years. That's how entrepreneurial the US is. 1 in 4 may have engaged in self-employment for 6 or more years by the time they reach retirement. Participating in a new business creation is a common activity among US workers, even the course of their careers. I wonder what that can be said of Africans. So, who is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is someone who has an original idea, like we said. He is creative, so he comes up with an idea. He is able to change that idea into a business opportunity, and he is able to work it out to meet the needs of the customers. And therefore, he runs his own business. One who creates a new business, isn't it? In the face of risk and uncertainty, he still is able to come through with the business for the purpose of achieving profit and growth. So, his main activity is identifying opportunities and then working how those opportunities can be utilized, and then assembling the necessary resources to capitalize on the idea until the good or service can actually be consumed by the customers. They take calculated risks. People who take risks anyhow are not what we call entrepreneurs. They are just foolish. Entrepreneurs take calculated risks and are willing to lose money if the idea don't work immediately. That means an entrepreneur knows that business might work or it might not work. But because he can see the probability of it working is 60-70%, he knows that percent it might not work. He is willing to take a risk, and that's why all the years is not going to take the risk. He takes the risk, the whole business collapses, and many entrepreneur can tell you how many businesses have collapsed. And then he starts again from scratch. So, this guy, entrepreneur, is flexible. He might think he's doing very well, then next time he's not doing well. He is willing to adapt to a changing business environment. One day he is living in a very beautiful house. The business collapses. You see him in a small house. And he doesn't mind because he has something he's trying to achieve. He has a high degree of competence and a very strong will to succeed in the actions. In other words, he doesn't give up easily. He has a strong will. So, I promised earlier to give a list of characteristics so that you can check whether you are really an entrepreneur. So far we have talked about you have inner drive to succeed. In other words, it's not your parents telling you to start the business. There's an inner voice telling you that you can make it. Take the risk. An inner drive to succeed. Number 2, you are creative. Continuous search for new solution to problems. You come up with that problem. I have another man who I met through a friend of mine, and he sold his business the other day in billions, and his beauty product. It was bought by a South African in billions, millions of dollars. So I said, how can you start a business and you started from scratch? He said, no, don't worry. Within no time, my mind is fertile with ideas. I'm going to come up with another one, grow it up until I can also sell it in billions. That's how creative the guy is. Open-minded about change. If he's in this line, he can change to a different line. And he is naturally competitive. Competes against his performance yesterday. In other words, if he is able to do this business, tells himself that's now easy. Why can't I do a more complicated one where there is less competition? And he is willing to accept constructive criticism, rejection, sometimes failure. And that's difficult because some people, if you criticize them, they give up. A good entrepreneur will actually benefit from the criticism, rejection, laughter. It causes him to think and to come up with ideas. If you are sensitive, you will not end up. Now, next, as a characteristic of an entrepreneur, he has big dreams and a clear vision of how he or she wants to make that dream a reality. You can tell you exactly where you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. And entrepreneurs are very creative and always think of new, interesting ideas. The fact that he created this does not stop him. He will be trying to create another one. They are very enthusiastic about these ideas. So it's not just an idea that came from somebody. He is so committed, he wants to see it out. So he is enthusiastic and he has a positive outlook on life and is eager to make a success of his business. He doesn't want his business to fail. When it fails, he will have done his very best. He is committed to it succeeding. So, his desire for responsibility. He is always willing to take responsibility. For the failure, for the success, he is ready to take responsibility. He has a preference for moderate risk and risk eliminators. In other words, he is not a fool. He calculates his risks. And he is confident in his ability to succeed. He knows he can succeed. He doesn't start and say, I'll fail. No. He calculates all the things and sees the most likely thing is I will succeed. He has a desire for immediate feedback. So when he is doing something, you talk to people and he is ready for their feedback. And he has a high level of energy. He doesn't work 8 hours. He works 16 hours because he wants to see the idea come through. Very high energy levels. And he has a kind of a futuristic orientation. That's why he's a serial entrepreneur, continuously looking in the future. This is the way we are doing it now. What about if we did this other one? And he is skilled at organizing. Because the trouble is, when you come up with the idea, you're human beings, and you need to know how to organize them. So you need to ability to work with the people and to organize them. And then you need to value achievement over money. Because if what you're after is money, then you're not willing to take risks. So you see, you feel what excites the entrepreneur is to see something that was not happening, a service that was not available, now available, a product was not available, now available. It might bring money, but even if it does not bring money, he's very excited that his ideas are benefiting somebody or another. So what could we call him? A dreamer, innovator, passionate, risk taker, able to stay the course for the long run, irrespective of the challenge along the way, continuous learner, because he has to keep learning, a people person, I talked about that, enjoys working with people, a motivator, his team, he's able to keep them motivated so they have the same level of energy as him, able to cope with the pressure and stress, able to work with the budgets. Because you see, if he is given money by a bank, he has to work within the budget so that he doesn't end up the project is not complete and he's still expected to pay by the bank. And he enjoys achieving as much as the money that comes along in the process. So, how does he achieve this? He introduces a new product or quality, finally. He understands methods of production until the product can come out of the processes. And then finally, after you have produced the product, some people don't know how to get the product to the market. Entrepreneurs have one eye on the production of the service or product. The other eye is who needs it. And they're able to connect the product and the market. He is always thinking about new sources of supplies, new materials or parts, because he knows, in order to get this product, I've gotten it at $1 per piece. But if I could get another source of materials, I could sell it at half a dollar. So he's always thinking about not just about the market, but also sources of supplies that are optimum in cost. And then he's also always thinking about how to improve his organization. How to Ford, the one who began selling cars in America when cars came, was credited as the understanding about the conveyor belt and how to work so that there's a way you work and the car is able to be produced faster and cheaper. That's part of So initially, he is one person in everything. When he begins a business, he is the CEO, he is the accountant of business, he is the marketing manager of a business. He is everything in the new venture. He needs ability to organize and to identify people who can work with him. But he doesn't bring them. Some people who are not entrepreneurs, who are trained in big business. So when they come, they employ people before he can pay them. Not understanding that initially, the entrepreneur has to be everything. He needs to value achievement over money, so initially he is pushing for achievement. In other words, you need clarity or vision. That if you are helping people, you are happy they were helped. Even if in the process, you did not get much money out of that particular project. Thus, what do you need to be a successful and profitable entrepreneur? Number one, listening to me this far, you can see I've emphasized a passion for what you do. Because it will be a very challenging process. You need a passion. You need a passion for results of what you do. Not just doing activity, but you are trying to produce something. And you have a capacity for what you choose to do. And I kept repeating, you have rational skill, ability to work in a team. Can you see from this list, capital is the last of what is needed. And what the most entrepreneurs think about money. But it's not money you need. The bank has money and can actually give you the money if you convince them. But before then, what you need is the passion, the vision, the ability to organize people. Once that is clear, money is not the last item. You also need strategic skills. An entrepreneur must have a vision for the future. We have talked about that long-term future. She must be able to see the bigger picture and know where she is going with everything. Setting clear objectives. Then, now that he has a clear strategic intent, he sets clear objectives, and effective strategies are essential for running the business to reach the vision which he has done. That's what you are talking about when you talk about strategic skills. What are the benefits of being an entrepreneur? I talk about the benefits of being an employee. You see, the opportunity to create your own identity. When you take the telephone, we remember Mr. Bell. When you regard every product that was produced, we remember the founder. Sometimes they are named after the person. My friend, if you are an entrepreneur, you have names. Then the joy of making a difference in society and the ability to reach your full potential. Some people are employed, but they are not given an opportunity to pull their total weight. And the entrepreneur can keep growing and fulfill his full weight. And the process, you actually may reap impressive profits. You may become rich, even if that was not your original driving force. And then hopefully, you contribute to society and be recognized for your effort. I ask, do what you enjoy and have fun at it. Turn passion into profit. That's really what you need to find out. What's your passion? Don't do something good gives money. Go for passion. But once you go there, challenges of entrepreneurship are many. Number one, uncertainty of income. And I think I've talked about that quite a bit. That many businesses, in fact, it's estimated in Kenya, over 1,000 businesses registered, 700 of them don't take off. Within 3 years, they are dead. So you need to understand that's one of the things to manage. Uncertainty of income. And that's why I normally tell entrepreneurs, imagine the business fails. Tell yourself and your wife or your husband, how will you run the family? And that's why many entrepreneurs will separate family money from business money. They know even if the business totally collapses, they still milk money for the milk of the baby is still available. Because entrepreneurship is uncertain. You have the risk of losing your entire investment. And of course, I've talked about it. You have long hours and hard work. Because when others want to go home, how do you go home when your idea is not through yet? You have lower quality of life until the business gets established. You know, and it may take 1, 2, 3, 10 years of living at a low level compared with other graduates who left the university with you. And of course, in the process, you are going through very high levels of stress as you fear the possibility of failure. And of course, you have to complete, you have the responsibility of completing whatever you began, and discouragement along the way. Why do some businesses fail when they have been started by entrepreneurs? Number one, management mistakes. You are so interested and passionate about producing a product. You don't understand management is a must. Either you employ somebody or you need to learn about management. And many businesses don't collapse because of the creativity. They collapse because you can't manage the process. And sometimes lack of experience. You are entering into something and you are lacking experience, and you're not willing to employ somebody who has exposure in that area. But sometimes you actually produce a product or a service, but you are weak in marketing efforts. So the customers don't know about your product. And without the money, how will you continue producing the goods? And of course, some of the entrepreneurs, they have no idea what will happen next time. There is failure to develop a strategic plan. They cannot see the business 3, 4, 5 years ahead. It's from mouth to nose. And so in the process, they might grow. And I know a friend of mine who began a bank. It grew so fast. I was very impressed with that. That was for a Christian to own a bank. That was big news. And we were very happy. But as he started branch after branch after branch, and we were very excited, later we realized there were loans. And the whole thing collapsed. I think even his own mortgage. So it's very important to understand, and controlled growth, trying to grow too quickly, will be one of the levels of your undoing. You are supposed to go to a certain level, understand it, then grow again, understand it. You don't just grow continuously. You can end up taking risks that will destroy you. But sometimes the problem is that your business is okay, your management is okay, but the location is wrong. It is wrong because of customers or wrong because of suppliers. You did not think through before deciding where to locate your business. Or improper inventory control. A lot of things are stolen. Your raw materials are being stolen by your workers. You are not aware. There isn't a foolproof system of controlling products and supplies. And so you end up with no money, and all that's happening is that somebody else is benefiting from your raw materials or your product. Or sometimes incorrect pricing. You are pricing too low. You did not do proper cost accounting to know what is the minimum cost of this service or this product. People are very happy with your product, but you are still making losses because the pricing is wrong. Or 10, inability to make the entrepreneurial transition. You are business, you are an employee, a CEO. You come to your business and you don't transit from the large living of being a CEO to actually becoming an entrepreneur. The business will fail. So, if you want to avoid those mistakes, know your business in depth. Develop a solid business plan. Don't just do things. Sit down with somebody who can help you write a good business plan. Then, please, manage your financial resources. Don't start thinking you are rich, and it's only because you have not counted all the needs that are going to need money. Understand financial statements. When you are given a report, don't say I'm an engineer. If you can't understand finance, it will bring you down. You need to understand accounting. Not become an expert in it, but be able to understand the report the accountants are producing. You need to learn to manage people effectively. Don't just fear that I don't know how to run people. Even if you have a HR manager, you must yourself personally create teamwork and know how to befriend the people in your organization and keep in tune with yourselves. Be clear that you are going the right direction and you yourself are able to see growth. Having said all these things, would you still want to be an entrepreneur? What's the motivation to go into business? Because now at least I've told you it's not an easy matter. I think, of course, you talk about independence, not wanting to work for anyone else, desire to be one's own boss. Actually, when an entrepreneur, you are your own boss. That's true. Number two, money is the second reason for starting a new business. Some people want to be rich. Number three, job satisfaction. Where you are working, you are not satisfied. But as you do something you have come up with, every day you sleep like a child, happy with what you did during the day. And then finally, you see achievements, quick wins or long term. And then you keep getting many opportunities for growth. I want to give opportunity for people to discuss this topic and give various examples. I hope, Emmanuel, you can help me. Can I suggest that two people seated together talk to each other and answer the following questions? Number one, give an example of a successful entrepreneur you know. First question, give an example of a successful entrepreneur you know. Number two, what are the indicators that they were successful? You have just called them successful. What are the indicators that were successful? Question number three, give an example of a business you know that failed. That's an entrepreneur who failed. Question number four, what were the indicators that the business had failed? You have 5 minutes, because you're not debating, you are just sharing your story between the two of you, and one of you will report. How will they report? I hope the mic. I hope Emmanuel will give the mic so that they can report back. So we'll come back at 5:30. Take the time until 5:30. Emmanuel, do you think I'm clear? Emmanuel, I'm waiting to hear your voice. Oh, Emmanuel is not in the meeting. Okay, forgive me. So who is in the meeting? Who is the MC?
I'm hearing you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, over to you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Question. But can you do what he said first? 5 minutes. Do what he said. 2-2. Oh yeah, quickly. So do what? Yes, quickly. Are you doing it? All right. I'm sure you are true. So we will just take, sir.
No, let's give them. I promise them till 1:30. So we need to keep. It is. They still have another 4 minutes. Allow them another 4 minutes.
I'm too old for this shit. Never allow such statements to impede your path to success. For the determined age is never an excuse.
It's time to listen to the reports. Any volunteers or the MC can appoint.
Okay. Let's take. Hello, ma. Are you put through? Okay. Please, let's hear from your group. But whatever you have written down, we would like to have, your input, even though you are not able to share. But we'll just take some input. Ma will take that group, and we'll take your group at the back. Your group. One person will represent. I'm sure. All right. Let's get input from. Who's the person? Okay, Mama, please come.
We have seen that Coca-Cola company has continued. It is very successful because it has been there for many decades, and it is all over the world. Then Safaricom is number 2 because it's growing very fast, and it is giving a lot of services, and it has extended to many countries. Those are the successful ones. Coca-Cola and Safaricom.
We are now listening for failures.
Failures. We have seen there was a company that used to produce batteries. It is no longer hurdle used to be called what? Ever ready. Like for example, in our country, we never hear of it. It used to be advertised so much, but we no longer hear of it. Okay. The other one is a school that was closed during COVID period, and it is because the owner was undercharging. So when the COVID came, she had to shut it down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, your group. Do you have? Okay, please. Maybe you start from the bottom of the question.
Our group talked about the successful ones. One of it is William Colgate toothpaste. And it has transcended generations. And one of his success is good at marketing. Then another brand we talked about, he said, was Elon Musk. The one that does cars, Tesla cars, and many other things that he does.
What does he produce? What is the product or service?
Powered cars, Tesla.
Okay.
Cars that use fuel, but they are charged with the power, the battery. Electric cars, yes. Electric cars. Then the ones that failed, we talked about Nokia phone. Some of us have ever used the Nokia phone. It was very, very, very famous. And along the way, it faded out. And another person we talked about is the Yahoo email address called Yahoo. Also, along the way, we no longer see it. We have Gmail and many other ones. Okay.
Thank you very much. The only thing is that we don't have the time, but you need to go and find out why did they fail or why did they succeed. Because your evidence is they are still in existence, so they are well. Or your evidence is they are no longer in existence, so they failed. Now you need to find out why did they succeed, why did they fail. Because that's where the lesson for us entrepreneurs, we need to find out those lessons. The last person, let's give one more person.
In our group, we discussed the success of Jeff Bezos with his idea on Amazon, whereby he started an idea in 1994, and probably like 2 decades later is when we see his success, his resilience, and the business, the entrepreneurship that we saw that failed was that by Uchumi, where Uchumi was one of the supermarkets in Kenya, and it fizzled down, and some of the reasons was due to ambitious expansion programs, there's weak management, poor resource policy, and unstable financing. That is what we discussed in our group.
Thank you very much. Is there a Nigerian example of success? Or there's no Nigerian in the conference? We seem to be only praising Kenyan examples.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity to present. Okay, we'll give an example of a successful entrepreneur. So we talked about KFC. Indicator that they are successful, their consistency, their quality, their food quality, their quantity is also value for money. They have loyalty of their workers. They have strategic ways of advertising their business, and also competency. And the second question is about, we give example of one that failed. She has already talked about mathematics. Yours was which means, okay, I think the same.
Okay. That's very good. We now have enough examples, but I hope the meeting can share the ones that you haven't covered we can share them, because the whole purpose of today's discussion is encouraging those whom God has called to entrepreneurship to actually come. I want to spend a bit of time just mentioning. Yesterday I talked about the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line. Similarly, for those that are entrepreneurs, your business must have a triple bottom line. Number one, is that business making money? If it's not making money, it will not last. But that's not enough. Second question, is that business building people's careers and their professional life? Are people better because of working there or not? Bottom line number three, are people getting to know Jesus and to have biblical values because of working in your business? And that's now where it makes a lot of difference, because some entrepreneurs are there making money left, right, center. They don't mind firing people at the wrong time, whatever they do. But with those three bottom line ideas, it means that as an entrepreneur, you need very clearly to check how is the way you are running business able to be for you to be a success in all the three bottom lines, because it will be important that all of them are doing well. That will be important. I would have given the example of the fish pod, but because you will get the notes, I would also have talked about the petrol station dealers, and I would looked at the issues. Let me just finish by saying, but where can you get capital in order to run your business? I've emphasized during this discussion that capital is not your idea. It's not the main thing. It is the idea of something, a need in society, a need in a village, a need in a country, noting it, understanding it, and understanding that if you met that need, people would be willing to pay because that is a real serious need. That's really what the issue is. Once you have arrived at that, if you write a business plan that clearly shows that will make a lot of money, it's much easier for people to give you money because of your product. Let me give you several examples. If, for example, you came up with an idea in a village and you have no money, then you talk to the people out there in town how you can use their supplies in order on a longer term in order to meet that need. Since their raw material will get used, they are likely to support you. Okay, control you also. They are likely to support you for it. So the idea can be sold to give you money. So the more important thing is, have you found the idea? And once you have the idea is, for example, there's a product missing in your village, but you know somebody in Mombasa who is producing it. If you went to a person producer and say, by the way, my village doesn't have this product, why don't you give me your product on credit? Once I have sold in my village, I'll pay back minus my profit. Since you are growing his business, he is likely to take a risk with you. And that in the process, you have funded your own business. But the other technical one is called crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is the practice of funding a project or venture by raising money from a large number of people, typically via the internet. Say, I have this idea. If you give me your money, this is the kind of return I'll give you. And people just give you the money. Then there is what we call venture capital. Venture capital are people who make their money by supporting entrepreneurs. It's a form of private equity financing provided by firms or funds to startups, because your entrepreneur is called a startup, or early stage, or emerging company. And so when you talk about venture capital, there are people, and you can Google up, you'll see in Kenya, who are people giving money to new business once they are convinced that the business plan shows there will be a return. Venture capitalists also have business expertise in the area they are talking about, so they can tell whether you make money or not, because they have an idea about how it runs. There are some people that are called angel investors. Angel investors support startups in the initial phase